everyone. I'm going live today. I'm not in our sewing studio right now. Reason being, I was having some terrible back pain. I think it's possibly something to do with something hormonal. So anyway, I was getting ready to do a little bit of computer work here, but later on, ZD and I will be recording a podcast. Or 2 or 3 or something upstairs. So I'll take our sewing studio selfie then. But I just want to jump in here real quick. And this is something that I feel like I have to do every once in a while and just refresh the group's collective memory and just say, hey, your pronouns matter. They matter to me. And it's in the group rules. It's in the questions that we ask in order to admit people into the group. Okay, so when I say this, if you're like, what are you talking about? You know, like, what do you mean your pronouns matter? If someone in the group is a gender non-binary person or a transgender person or just whatever, and they make a note about their pronouns in their post and say, I use, he, him, or I use she, her, or I use they, them, it's important for us to respect that. And so if you're like, why is this happening? Is this, if this is a new thing? Because I remember when this was a new thing to me, I was like, why are we denoting our pronouns? Or I remember a time before I knew what a transgender person would go through, maybe in different spaces on the internet or something like that. There's a time where this might be new for us. And so what can happen is that if someone is misgendered, it can make them very uncomfortable. Lots of things can happen. I won't speak, on everything that can happen because I'm not a transgender individual. But noting your pronouns is something that's totally acceptable in the group. And if someone is disrespectful of that, it is against the rules. I think that it's important for us to be able to be honest and open about different areas of our lives, because when we sew, especially clothing, we're talking about our bodies, and our bodies are very personal things. They go with us to do everything. We eat in them, we sleep in them, we take care of our families in them, we go, some people worship in them, some people, do different things in them, and I, feel very strongly that my community should be a place where people can feel honest about that. People should be able to talk about making, first communion dresses and period underwear and I love that when the link gets shared to the easy access underwear, people sometimes have sex in their clothing, okay? People deal with health issues with their clothing. People, all sorts of stuff. So it's all appropriate. You should feel empowered to do so. And if someone makes you feel unempowered to do so, you tag me, Mallory Donahue, and I will address the issue. I'm sorry that sometimes we have to go through this, but, that's kind of life, and I do the best I can in the group to make it a safe space, make it a place where people can feel comfortable to do that. So just know, I'm on your side, but I also want to say thank you for being gentle with each other on this issue. Like I said, sometimes, the issue of pronouns might come up or something like that, and it's totally new to somebody, and that's okay. So it is important to, in the context of this Facebook group, gently educate people, which I think we are actually pretty darn good at doing. So, if someone's asking a question, why did you mention your pronouns or something like that, if we can gently educate someone, that'd be great. If you don't feel like you're in the headspace to gently educate someone, perhaps you deal with, crap all day from people or microaggressions or something, you can tag me and I'll do my best to do that. So I like to leave space for people who actually have these lived experiences to speak on them, but also I think it's my job as the moderator to keep it a respectful place. So I try to finely balance that. And if you're new to the group, if you're new to live or anything like that, communication and respect in this community are just as important as sewing tips, okay? So being respectful of our fellow stitchers, being respectful of their identities, of what they're talking about, as long as it's, not, harmful, as long as someone is sharing something and it's not, like harmful to others, we need to be respectful of them. If you don't like a post, you may scroll on by, but disrespect towards your fellow stitchers is not going to be tolerated. So just a gentle reminder of that. And yeah, I know that sometimes people think that certain topics or things are like off topic in a sewing group. But sewing, especially our own clothes, is so very related to all these different parts of our lives that if it's something that's new to you, then you might not understand why it's important, okay? Language is very important for making people feel welcome. That's why I ask that when someone asks a question in the group or addresses the group, we don't say, "Hey, ladies," Why is that? Well, we're not all ladies in the group. And there are men or non-binary people who sew lots of different things, and I want it to be an inclusive space. And you're like, well, but I only, want to ask the ladies a question. Well, here's the deal. I'm in groups about coding and being, in online business and all of that. And, I have felt left out or unwelcome, due to some of the masculine language that gets used there. And I think about like my daughter, maybe going into like a field like this and feeling like it's very much sort of like a boys' club. Don't want her to feel that way. I have a son. I don't want my son to be creating boys' clubs. I don't want my son to go into a space where historically it's been largely a feminine space and feel like he's not welcome or that he is less of who he feels he is because he's in, I don't know, a ballet class or a sewing group or something like that. This is what's behind this. This is the intention, okay? So that's what's going on. Levi says, this has been a big deal for me. I can't ask questions in other groups because of my gender. Yeah, I know, this is in the group rules and everything. I try to make this a very welcoming space. I don't highlight it like every single day. And partially the reason is, and I've mentioned this before, I don't want to be seen as someone who, or I don't want to be someone who is sort of profiting from inclusion. I want it to just be at the very base of everything I do, including my business. So, sometimes a kerfuffle will happen. It happens. I just want the whole group to just be like, a part of that. And a lot of people have said that they've learned a lot from this group, from people who have shared their experiences. So, I can't make everyone take like an ideology test before they enter the group. I can't guarantee that everyone in here, believes the same way that I do or that you do. And that's not how the world works. But I can guarantee that I will enforce these rules. So, that's about as safe as I can make the internet. I like to be very honest about what can actually be done to make a Facebook group a safe place. I want to be very honest here. I think sometimes people put forth some unrealistic expectations about how they can regulate their community. The internet is the internet. I'm in a lingerie group where people share pictures of themselves, in their lingerie, and they're like, well, I know this is a safe space to do it in. And while screenshots are, prohibited, like, you can't control it all the time. Like, a moderator cannot stop a person from doing something like that. I cannot literally stop a person from saying something hurtful ahead of time, even though I wish I could. And so I will get in there and I will do my best to make sure that people are respected. So you can always tag me, tag Mallory Donahue. Here, let me, in case you don't know who I am, my name is at the top of the group. And Larry, that's me. Okay, you can always tag me. And so, why is this an issue? Will it be an issue if someone's running some community 10 or 15 years from now? Maybe not. There is some language that you can think of that people used to use 10, 20 years ago, right? That would be inappropriate in almost any, civilized company nowadays, right? So this is what's going on, and this is why I have to address it every once in a while to make sure that my gender non-binary or transgender sewing friends feel welcome. And then if you don't like it, I'd say 98% of the sewing internet doesn't give a care. So you may go consume there. All right. So anyway, if you have any questions, if you're like, what is going on? What are pronouns? Ask. And we will answer, and we'll let you know. So thanks for being gentle with each other. Thank you for respecting that communication is just as important as sewing tips, and that's how this community runs, okay? All right, everybody. That's my live for day 3 of the sewing 31 Days of Sewing Challenge. I'm sorry it had to be a little bit more serious, but, happens. And, yeah, I'll post our sewing room selfie when we go record our podcast later on. All right, everybody. Have an awesome day. So long and so happy.